So first of all, good evening and welcome to everybody who's here tonight with us for this very special event with Lisa Rubin and Bonnie Chodes. My name is Stephen Spodek. I'm a member of the ADATH Israel and a vice president of the synagogue's executive committee. I want to keep my comments extremely brief for this very special program. I want to first acknowledge the president of the ADATH Israel, Dr. Peter Safran, the synagogue's spiritual leader, Rabbi Michael Whitman, and Stuart Gutman, the executive director of the ADATH. Lisa Rubin, who's here with us this evening, and has just told us she has a 6 o'clock a.m. flight tomorrow morning, has been the artistic and executive director of the Segal Center for Performing Arts for almost 10 years. During that time, she has also been a tremendous leader in Montreal's burgeoning theater community. Lisa is a native Montrealer. She studied drama at McGill University. And during her McGill years, she spent 3 consecutive summers at the Charlottetown Festival. And I remember one summer, my wife and I were in Charlottetown and we bumped into her very briefly. Like all live entertainment providers in Montreal and around the world, the Segal Center struggled through more than 2 years of full or partial closure during the COVID epidemic. And since then, the staff under Lisa's leadership has been working very hard to bring back live audiences. With the Segal Center, with Lisa at the helm, the Segal Center has survived the pandemic and has come back stronger than ever. In addition, I'm pleased to let everybody know that the Segal Center for Performing Arts will undergo a major renovation, which Lisa will tell us about, thanks to support from the federal and Quebec governments for a total of $6.1 million. I'm doing a little bit of research on Lisa. I found a couple of really wonderful quotes, but I want to highlight one. And she was recently quoted as saying that great theater can move you, can transport you, and can immerse you in a world entirely different from your own. It's an escape from the everyday, and we can't wait to share this journey with you. I think this is certainly applicable to the upcoming Segal Center, the upcoming season at the Segal Center, with several wonderful offerings, starting with Beautiful, the Carole King story, which on a personal level I'm looking forward to as we have tickets for. Lisa will be in discussion with Bonnie Chodes, an extraordinary member of the ADATH community and its leadership. Bonnie is currently chairperson of the ADATH's very active sisterhood. Bonnie will be in discussion with Lisa for about 35 or so minutes, and then we'll open up the floor to questions. I think, as Lisa might say, is Madame et Monsieur, let the show begin.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Stephen, for such a lovely introduction. And Lisa, I'm so happy to finally meet you virtually, even though I've seen you come out at the end of plays at the theater and peeking around, but I've never had the pleasure. So it's really my pleasure to meet you. And Stephen has told me that you recently returned from a trip to Israel. So why don't we start with that, since that's the most recent and exciting thing that you have done.
Thank you. Thanks, Bonnie and Stephen. And it's so fun to do this and to be here with everyone on a Sunday. It's Sunday, right? I'm like, yeah, on a Sunday night. I did just come back from Israel, and tomorrow I'm heading to Toronto for auditions. And it's kind of, the best part of my job, aside from having the plays on and meeting the audience. It's doing this kind of work and traveling and seeing great art and meeting great artists. So I was just working with the National Theatre Habima in Tel Aviv, an extraordinary theater. And I'm hoping to bring one of their plays in for a future season. But, we always want to not just bring it to Montreal. We want to take some of the great, incredible work that Israel's doing and expose it to as many people as possible. So that means a journey from Montreal and then maybe to New York. And so many exciting things happening there and incredible artists. And it was just, filled my cup tremendously.
That sounds really inspiring, and I'm sure it was wonderful to be in Israel at this time, as it is anytime.
Yes.
Um,
The weather is better than July.
that's for sure. So we started with the present, but let's go back to your past a little bit.
Okay.
And I know with, as it is with some people, professionals, and many of you in the art world, there's always a pivotal experience in your childhood where it's like the first time you're exposed to something or something that really moves you, that just clicks and lights the fire. So could you talk a little bit about an experience you had like that as a child?
Yes, they're very significant, actually. And I think if you speak to any theater person, we all have that moment. Mine came, in threes. So it was, my dad had an 8-track of a chorus line, and I knew the entire score when by the time I was 7 years old. And so that was one. And then when I was 10, I went to New York for the first time and I saw 42nd Street. And that, seeing that particular show, I think really changed my life. I wanted to be up there with them. And then I guess the third thing was the Mickey Mouse Club, where I saw kids my age, performing and singing and dancing. So it was like everything put together. It just, the stage and that feeling of being on stage with people, it was just everything and an escape. And still today, a chorus line in 42nd Street, and even, the Mouseketeers that I still follow, will always be a part of my life.
Oh, that's lovely, and they're wonderful plays for sure. And were you like a little ham when you were young? Like, did you like to perform? Did you do these like backyard plays or shticks for your family?
Uh, yes, big time. I always wanted to be in front of the camera and, making everything into an interview. When we would travel to Florida, there was like there used to be live bands playing, not, I'm sure everyone remembers, but I used to want to get up there and sing with them. And I wouldn't, and my family, like, I did not have the greatest voice when I was younger. You have to learn and train, but I was not shy. I definitely just always wanted to be on stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That sounds
true
right
theater.
on true theater person. And so who was influential in supporting you with your ideas? Because, I remember my grandfather telling me when I said I wanted to be an actress when I was 5 or 6 and I was on Magic Tom. He said, "Oh no, that's just like a terrible profession." And, so any moment that I might have dreamed, it was just, knocked out right there. But you must have had someone supporting you.
Well, both my parents supported me. I mean, I think I really understood this in the last 5 years. We speak of the word privilege all the time. So I really appreciate how the values of maybe my family or the Jewish community, are there to really help kids find their passions and then nurture them. And the fear of making a living, the fear of finding a job that's going to be able to support a family, or isn't what's drilled into you as much as it maybe is in some other cultures. And not that it's where education was always an essential thing. Education it was never oh, I want to take tap. Okay, I'll find you a tap class. Oh, I really love this show. Okay, let's go see it. So I think, and I try to pass that down with my own kids. Like, I just want to take them to everything and I want to expose them to everything. And I think the more culture, the more access they have to different kinds of art, even if they're in science, they'll be better for it.
Oh,
and I had wonderful teachers. Yeah. And my Bialik High School theater teacher, right, Roberta Snight, she was amazing in grade 7 and 8. If I ever win a Tony Award, I'd mention her.
That's incredible. That's really nice to hear. Those Bialik plays, the fashion shows, the just having the opportunity to perform as a child, I think you really get it in your heart, right?
Yeah, well, that's why community theater is so important. It's the funnel for everything, and it's those experiences that are created when you're younger. And being an artist is not easy at all. But when anyone who is pursuing it, it's because they really can't imagine themselves doing anything else, or they can't live without it. And I think you have to feel that way about it in order to do this. And that often gets really, rooted in your experiences when you're younger.
So what did you studied in McGill? At McGill?
Yeah, I did. I did not. So this would here lies when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, it's like I really wanted to be an actor, but I really knew I needed to get an education because they're phenomenal conservatory programs in the country and elsewhere. But I opted for, a BA instead, mm-hmm. And no regrets.
So, is you have a background in acting, or?
I think I have my acting background is more in the school of life. I definitely have taken and trained in theater, in dance and voice. But in terms of, though, in general, I really, because I was working, whether community or professional, since I was 14, you learn everything. You learn the rules, you learn when you're overstepping your boundary, you learn how to collaborate. You learn everything from people who are better than you and more experienced than you.
So how do you make the transition from actor to artistic director?
I don't think you do. I think there are those very few people who are very intentional in terms of their career goals and career paths, and I think that's amazing. And I love meeting people like that. In my case, I really never imagined myself doing this. It really took other people to kind of see the magic in me, namely Alvin Segal. So, I don't think I would have been brave enough or confident enough to have gone for it had he not motivated me to do it, to guide me when it was very rough waters. And I also had very little kids. So kind of, that kind of makes you fearless. I asked, I can't rewrite history or know what I would have done, but, I wonder if I would have had the kind of guts to do this without my kids.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit, now that you mentioned Alvin Segal, let's talk about the transition from the Sadie Bronfman Theater to the Segal Center, both, how your role in it, but also like in general. That like?
Well, I mean, the Sadie Bronfman Center was a wonderful institution that just, you know, uh, was a business like anything else. And so it needed help. And when Alvin came in and decided to, the old wives' tale is he bought it for $1. Um, it turned into a performing arts center and kind of had these big dreams. And he was always a man of, if you build it, they will come. And together with Bryna Wasserman, they really laid the foundation to build it into what it is today. And over the years, the focus has shifted more into theater and community versus dance, music, and cinema. Now those disciplines are more integrated into the mandate that we have with community and Jewish identity and diverse perspectives. But our main focus is theater today.
So what's the role of theater in Montreal in the Jewish community? And also, what's so special about live theater that you can't get from sitting down in front of Netflix?
Oh, I feel like everyone who's here knows that answer. I don't even have to. We've all had those experiences. I mean, in Israel, I just saw 5 shows, and each one of them was more spectacular than the next. I don't know. I think maybe we'll wait for the Q&A for that one, because I feel like it's something intangible that you just know and feel because you're sharing an experience with somebody else. And, I love Netflix just like everyone else does, by the way. There is the excitement and, something about the live that, you just can't compete with. And that's why it's been around for 2,000 years, and it will continue to be around for 2,000 years, no matter what else happens. Now wait, remind me of the beginning part of your question.
So this kind of segues in. So, okay, so you've answered the first part. So now that you have that audience and you can convey, so what do you want to convey to our Montreal community? what kind of
Yeah, I just think Montreal, I think we deserve the best. The English speaking community continues to shrink. There's more and more bilingualism. We have more French theater goers than ever. It's wonderful. We have more non-Jewish theater goers than ever. That's wonderful. We're like the hospital of the arts. And I just want everybody to come. But I think Montreal deserves amazing theater, just like Toronto, just like Chicago, just like New York. And so my job is to ensure that having a place where you can go see a play or a musical in English of very high quality, and a very moving experience, whether that's happy or sad or whatever you want it to be, will be there for you. And then at the same time, I think the Segal Center uniquely has a role in community programs. And that's whether it's with the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater, whether it's with all the schools that come and, want to do work, whether it's all the guest artists. I heard you mentioning Mizu Shobai, which is Julie Tamiko Manning's piece that's going to be in our small space, whether it's, Broadway Café and our open mic nights, or whether it's our musical fundraiser. It's kind of, we are a place for people to kind of scratch that itch when it comes to performance.
Can you tell us a bit more about the Broadway Café?
Sure. The Broadway Café is something that actually my husband started years ago, after being in Vienna and witnessing this kind of experience around like a piano bar experience where everyone was singing along. And it it's live karaoke, but with show tunes. But what it does is it gives a platform for lots of whether they're aspiring professionals, emerging artists, community performers, to perform in front of their peers in a very, or audience, in a very kind of inclusive, fun, no pressure environment. And it's packed every time. It's amazing. There's a real need for it. There's a real need because people don't have a lot of opportunities to perform here. That's the reality. And so, having these kind of Broadway cafes that we do really gives people the opportunity to perform and practice.
That sounds like so much fun. And do you have to be a performer to?
No, we have everyone. We have all ages. You people are holding their phones to read their lyrics. Anything goes. Really, anything goes. I would encourage anybody to come, and then you don't have to sing if you don't want to.
So you say that it was your husband that came up with this idea and started it?
Yeah, years ago, and then with me, well, he saw it, and I was at the time working at the Segal Center in another department, and and we started it. And now it's really taken over by I want to say the next generation, but the next generation.
So your husband sounds like an interesting guy. And tell me if this is true or not, but a little birdie told me that he proposed to you in the theater. Was it on stage?
Yes. And I think I saw my Aunt Ilona come in, and she was there. Right, Ilona, you were there. And it was during a performance of Fiddler on the Roof. It was quite epic because no one knew, no one was told, so except the stage manager. So everybody, not only was I surprised, the entire cast was surprised as well. And if you follow me on Facebook and you scroll down on my videos, you'll see a little clip of it. But it was a very sweet story, obviously. Fiddler on the Roof.
That sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't the night I was there, but I'll take your word for it and check it out. So what's your personal favorite genre of theater?
My personal favorite genre of theater? Well, musicals. But, this job has completely transformed my love for plays. Completely. I'm going to New York in a couple of weeks to see 2 plays. That's, the appreciation that I have for a good play and how that can, how those make you feel is a different sense of power that musicals give me. So, usually I leave musicals with this satisfying, I want to be them, that was amazing, the dancing, the choreography. But the plays I find very transformative. They get me, they really get me when they're good. And that's what I look for. And that's what I want to bring to the Segal Center. I won't, put anything on the stage that I didn't, either cry from laughter or tears. I have to be incredibly moved by it.
The prayer for the French Republic was really quite amazing. Really enjoyed that. And I found that, I guess transformative is a good word.
Yeah.
Just really opens your eyes, I think. So when you plan a lineup for the season, so I mean that seems like a humongous job. How do you go about choosing the plays, and what do you look for to make it a good season?
Well, it starts with like me, my like loving it first and foremost. So I see a lot of things. I read as much as I can. And then it is a puzzle. It is a puzzle because there are certain things that are really important. Like it's really important to me that I have something Canadian and I don't just do all American plays. It's really important to me that I have female playwright and not just male playwrights. It's really important that we have plays that aren't just about Jews, that are about others as well, or that are universal, or that some are comedy or some are drama. So, and that's not just important to me. I think it's important to any artistic director, and it's important to a community of audience who are looking for art. There needs to be representation, a diverse representation. So, I just actually read a phenomenal play on anti-Semitism, but you know what? I just did one. So, it has to, so much of it is about timing and what's happening in the world at the time. If I'm doing, a really, really big show like Beautiful, then I have to kind of balance it out with a smaller show as a business, right? So there's so many factors. It's really not easy. But when all the pieces fall into place, it feels really good and you just know it. And then you just hope for the best.
So do you have a board to, that has to pass the plays, or have, or...
The board doesn't get involved in that, but it's not that they don't get involved. There's always, the board's incredible, and I get feedback all the time, but there's a trust in terms of the programming. I remember when I wanted to do the play Bad Jews. Remember that? Everyone remember that one? There was legitimate concerns over the title, legitimate. And I had to really, and I think it's important that I'm challenged and that I'm asked those questions, and that I'm able to come up with answers so that, the board can stand by me and can be also proud of what the Segal Center is putting out.
I guess there's also budgetary concerns, and also like lead times. Like, so how long did it, how long did it take to prepare for like Beautiful, which was a big production?
So we've been planning Beautiful for over a year. The set is built, like everything's done. So we start rehearsals this Thursday, actually. But by that time, everything's done. Like the director has sat with her team, her choreographer and music director. They've built the transitions. Because when you get into the room, you have, 3 or 4 weeks with the actors, and it's like an impossible timeline in general. And it's just, it has to do with producing theater and the standard weeks and all sorts of stuff like that. But you have to be so ready. You have to work so hard before. So Stephen mentioned I'm on a 6 a.m. flight tomorrow because I start auditions at 9 a.m. and I just didn't feel like going tonight. But I'm auditioning for my play in May, June. So I'm late in we're late in terms of casting already. So we work like a year out.
So in terms of casting, and you've done a lot of auditions, is there a local actor that maybe stood out as somebody that you discovered and just, hired, and like they wowed you?
Well, Ellen David is I would say the Montreal treasure actor who's also on our board of directors. anything Ellen does is amazing. So that's who comes to mind. And there's so many. I mean, we have wonderful talent. We have really, Montreal keeps showing up. And more people are actually moving back here or just want to live here. Like, artists love coming here. They love it. They love it. They love Montreal. We know their issues, but try living in Toronto, or try living, an hour outside of Toronto, or in a basement in a barn somewhere in, the country. People love Montreal. So we're very lucky. Artists always want to work here. And I think more and more people are coming back.
So is there like a give and take between the Montreal and the Toronto theater scene in terms of actors?
Yes. I mean, we all know each other. I mean, I'm always discovering new people for sure, but it's a small, theater showbiz is small. Like, it's a small world. It's a small world. Just as an example, my childhood camp friend, like best friend, is married to the director of the movie Golda. Like, even that, like, it's a small world. And especially in the arts, and then especially within the Jewish community, but in theater, which is not very Jewish in the rest of Canada, the theaters, all the artistic directors talk to each other, and everyone knows each other, and you get to know the artists, and yeah. And it's you see the same people on stages quite often as well.
So I just have one more question before we go to the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, so what can we look forward to this season at the Segal? There's Beautiful, of course, coming up.
Yeah, I'll go really quickly through them. But Beautiful, I would say to anyone who's seen it before, come see it in our space, because it's like, I don't know if anyone saw Funny Girl or Once, but these big musicals done in the intimacy of the Segal space is exceptional. And Tess, who's playing Carol, is brilliant. And, the whole cast is. Ellen's in the cast, by the way. She's playing Carol's mom. And it's, I don't know what to say. Like, it's Beautiful is going to be amazing. I don't need to talk about it. It's Carol King. Everyone knows who Carol King is here. Unlike I did something like this with some McGill students, and they didn't know who Carol King was. And I started singing songs. They're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that song. Yeah. So, and then this is so cute, but the next play is like a showbiz tell-all. Jake Epstein, he's a Canadian actor. He's Jewish. His mom, Kathy Kaser, is actually a Holocaust. She writes Holocaust fiction for young adults and youth. And you can look her up. She's amazing. Look up Kathy Kaser, because we're going to do something with her when she's here. She's going to be here the whole time because Jake just had a baby. So she's going to help. And so Jake originated the role of Jerry Goffin on Broadway. And he wrote this show about all of his, experiences in different Broadway shows. And while they're all may seem glamorous on the outside, on the surface, behind the scenes, again, being an actor is not without its ups and downs. And so he's an amazing storyteller. And for anyone who loves like behind the scenes stuff, that's Jake's show, Boy Falls from the Sky. And then 15 Dogs is like, we talk about plays that you go, wow. So 15 Dogs was a really one of the most moving experiences I had last year. And it's based on this book, very well-known book in Canada by the same name. But book is very devastating and violent and gruesome, and the play is not that at all. It's an adaptation for the theater. We don't want to traumatize audiences. We want to inspire them. And this is what happens when dogs are given human consciousness. And it's just, you know, a reflection on humanity. The acting is amazing. And it's just, you know, we're doing it, sold out in Toronto. And part of what we do love to do at the Segal Center is develop and take stuff further. Like right now, Dracula, which we did last season, is currently running in New York. And you could see the Segal Center's little golden touch on everything, from the marketing to the lead actor to some of the props. So with 15 Dogs, we're taking this kind of small production that was in Toronto, and we're designing it and making it bigger for our stage. We're working on the script. We're localizing it. So instead of Toronto references, they're all going to be Montreal references. And we're hoping that it's going to go on a national tour. And then finally, we're ending with a show that I'm directing called POTUS, or Behind Every Great Dumbass, or 7 Women Trying to Keep Him Alive. And this show, it's funny. It's funny. It's, you know, a farce. So lots of door slams, lots of things going wrong. But you typically have farces that are kind of led by men. And this is a farce, and it's all women. And it's all women, you know, trying to save the day and clean up a mess. And it very much, you know, if anyone was into the Barbie movie and the messages from the Barbie movie, it's similar in terms of the, you know, the patriarchy, but it's really just like women having the best time, nonstop laughter.
Sounds fantastic. And
I just want to quickly mention also, like, because the Yiddish theater, you know, 60 years and going strong, and, you know, the Yiddish theater is going to do some beautiful programming this year. And, you know, we're trying to keep it relevant and do some different things, so that we can continue to delight audiences of all ages. And then lots of guest companies and everything. Okay, sorry.
Terrific. No, thank you. And okay, on that note, let's open it up to Q&A. If anybody has some questions, and type it into the chat, and we'll have a look. And while you're thinking of your questions and writing them down, I have a question about First Nation theater. And, you know, I don't know if there's, like, you know, culturally, like a history of theater in the First Nations, but I know that there's a history of storytelling. And I'm wondering if there's anything on the horizon that might come up from First Nation.
I hope so. We've had, you know, the experiences working with the Indigenous community and Indigenous artists have taught us so much about humanity and about cultures coming together, and especially people with deep, you know, traditions of storytelling and practices that are very rooted in their culture. And it's so beautiful. Last year we did a whole showcase, a multidisciplinary showcase, where we had theater and dance, and we had a crafts fair, and we had 2 wonderful Indigenous curators, and really just trying to remind the Indigenous community that they have a home and they have a place at the Segal Center, and remind audiences of how creative and talented Indigenous work is. So, you know, I hope we get to do that again. We are under renovations. So this season in general is quite challenging. We are navigating renovations, but the results you know, new seats in the theater, an elevator to go to the lounge finally, a safer ramp. You know, there's so many positive things that we have to kind of, you know, deal with it for a year and a half, but it'll be worth it in the end. But yeah, you know, there's an Indigenous theater is more and more, artists are everywhere, and I really encourage everyone to check it out because yeah, it's again, it's special. It's learning about others and kind of coming together.
I agree. Well, I really look forward to that as well. And I had just signed up for this Japanese play. I don't know if that's put on by you or it's a guest company.
It's a guest company. That's Mizu Shobai is the name of it, and it's written by Julie Tomiko Manning, who's a wonderful Montreal artist. And so yeah, it's Table d'Hôte and Julie who are doing it, producing it, but it's in our space. So I would often curate the programming there. So, you know, I may have, you know, 20 requests of people wanting to rent our space or use our space over the course of a season, and I can only take 3. So, you know, I want to support local artists, and I look for diverse work and kind of things that you wouldn't necessarily see like beautiful on the main stage, but they're all, you know, they all really have something great to offer.
Okay, we have a question, thank you, from Stephen Spodek.
It's a question and a comment because unfortunately I'm not the most technically adept person.
Okay.
I wonder if people have submitted questions in the chat and we're not seeing them. Perhaps people should put up their virtual hand so we can call them out to ask their questions. I guess if I could ask one question is, what kind of cooperation, Lisa, do you do with the other English language theaters in Montreal? Like the Centaur, like the Doherty Theater, the Black Theater, because I guess it's not a very large community when it comes down to it.
Yeah, the Segal Center is a tremendous resource for the entire artistic community. We're one of the few companies that have a venue. And so you'll always find the other companies in the Segal Center, whether in rehearsals or auditioning or doing workshops or doing presentations. We also are all part of the Professional Association of Canadian Theatre. And so we meet regularly to kind of have conversations as a group that affects the industry as a whole. And we're all friends. We're all friends. And I think, you know, when you're a theater person, chances are you're going to go to more than, I hope you don't just come to the Segal. You know, you'll find things that interest you elsewhere, but, you know, I don't just go to theater. I love the ballet. And I love, you know, if I got tickets already for my son to the Home Alone Symphony, you know, like I love, you love all art, right? So I think we're all very good. We're all great friends and we all support each other to the best that we can. Recognizing that, of course, the Segal Center has a lot more than others. And so I think there's a responsibility that I certainly feel that I have to share and give as much as I can. As a not-for-profit theater, in order for the greater, you know, sustainability of having Montreal artists around.
Are there any other questions from anybody? Maybe you can just unmute yourself and ask.
Doris Gandel, do you have a question?
I do. Yeah, not a question. Hold on. Yeah. I don't have a question. I was one of Lisa's Yiddish teachers at Bialik. And Lisa, I was just typing a little note to you to tell you that I was so excited when I heard that you were, I am a member of the ADATH Israel, but when I heard that you were speaking tonight, I am so excited. I just wrote you a little note how proud I am of you. I remember you as a sweet, always smiling little girl. And I'm just so, it gives me such nachas to listen to tonight. And I remember your husband, Elan, and I'm just very proud of you.
Thank you. I remember you. I
Okay,
remember you
thank you.
well. Absolutely. Thank
Thank
you. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you, Lisa. And I've read about you. It's not just tonight. I've read about you through the years, and I've always shut nachas. So I'm going to tell you that.
Oh, thanks. I see Ellen has her hand up.
Yes.
Ellen,
Ellen, can you unmute?
I can't believe you're here.
I'm not in a place where I can actually turn on my camera, so you'll just hear what I have to say. I would like to thank ADATH for bringing this incredible woman to this Zoom. I heard about it because I participated in the Martine Cohen lecture on forgiveness last week and then saw that Lisa was up next, so I did not want to miss it. You've all heard for yourselves Lisa speaking tonight, and just, you know, how dedicated she is to the performing arts. I would like to speak from personal experience. Lisa referred to the theater as the hospital of the arts. I mean, and if that's the case, then Lisa is the attending physician, chief surgeon, and anesthesiologist all rolled into one. She is a marvel. And my question to her one day is like, how do you do it? How do you wear all these hats? But I had the honor of being directed by Lisa in Marjorie Prime, and most recently Prayer for the French Republic. And I have to say that she's remarkable. She wears all these hats. She's coordinating all these moving pieces and has really created the Segal as a cultural hub, a world-class institution. I've worked in many theaters, and I have to say that the Segal Center for the Performing Arts is one of a kind. We should be proud to have it in Montreal, in Canada, in North America, and I believe we have Lisa and her team to thank for that. It is, you know, I'm going to wear my other hat now as a board member and say, those of you who've been on this Zoom, please tell your friends. And if you haven't subscribed, do so. This is a very varied, eclectic, diverse season. And it's going to be transformative, as Lisa has said, as other people have mentioned. And I just really want to applaud and thank her for being so dedicated, so wonderful, and such an kind of talented and directed towards creating something wonderful for our community. So thank you, Lisa, and thank you, ADATH, for bringing her to us.
Wow.
Thank
See,
you.
it's people like Ellen that help me do it. You know, the end.
I mean,
Because
everybody needs a team, right?
Mhm.
People behind them. There are a couple of comments and thank yous from Marilyn Cooperman. Thank you for a lovely interview, and we're looking forward to a transformative Segal season. And from Peter Safran, the president of the ADATH, this was a most inspiring and joyous presentation, a wonderful kickoff to the holiday and theater season. And yes, it's also a chance for me to, on behalf of the ADATH and ADATH Sisterhood, to wish everybody a very happy, peaceful, and sweet new year. And may we enjoy many, many wondrous things this year in good health. Stephen?
So I'm sitting here with my wife. She doesn't want to be on screen, but that's okay. She had a question about the Yaya Theater. Is that still going on in terms of the kind of outreach you have to young people in the community, Lisa?
So Yaya is part of our academy programming. I didn't even mention the academy, but oh my God.
Now's your chance.
You know, it's because Leanna Weiner, who's the director, is so incredible. She kind of like, she runs it and she does it. And because of her, I don't have to think about it, but I just chef the nachas from it. And it's after school programming, and we're always full. We always have a waiting list. And like the way I talked about my childhood in theater, this is what we're creating for the kids today. And whether they're going to be artists or they're going to be audience members, you know, it's these kids are finding a home and a group and a community of friends that they just don't have anywhere else. So part of that, we have Yaya, which is was really created as a funnel to the Yiddish theater. And yeah, it's still going strong. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's amazing to see, you know, Yiddish theater members, children participate in it. It gives an opportunity for kids to learn these really classic stories, or you know, even modern stories, but infuse them with Yiddish music and Yiddish song. And it runs every year, and it will run again this year, and it will be great. And all of our Academy shows are open to the public. I mean, it's, you know, of course, parents, families, and friends, you know, come mostly, but they are open to anybody. And so if you follow us or you subscribe to our newsletters or our web, you know, you can always see, even when the Academy is playing, and but get a ticket.
So if I could ask one more question before we wrap up.
Mhm.
I spoke to you before we began the program about 15 dogs and how I found the book. I don't know if other people around the Zoom event have read 15 dogs, and that I found it very impactful, and as I said, parts of it very disturbing. I guess the question is something I'm interested in, how you translate from what's on the page to the stage.
Yeah.
How you go about doing that, because needless to say, you're going to get a very different experience from you know, the cerebral activity of reading a book and then seeing something performed live.
Right. Well, I think, you know, Marie Farsi, who's the wonderful director and writer who adapted this, I'm looking forward to having these conversations and interviews with her and sharing that with the public, because I think people want to know. But, you know, a playwright understands what they need to do for an audience and a journey that they want to take an audience on. And I think Marie, you know, read this book and took the aspects of it that she thought would translate the best in a theatrical context, and leaving out some of the stuff that no one wants to watch. And so she really focused on the messages of how the relationships, you know, because humanity, theater, it's always about relationships. And so that's what she focuses on. And so, you know, you really don't need to read the book to see the play, but fans of the book will love the play. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. But I will get, you know, I think when 15 Dogs comes around, I really think we should, you know, have these conversations with Marie, and she can share more about her process.
Are there any other questions from anybody?
Ellen, did you want to say something else, or would you like me to read your note? Okay, so I'll read her note. Ellen David says, if you haven't subscribed already, please give yourself the gift of wonderful live theater. Tell your friends, Happy New Year and happy theater going. And there's a message from, I don't know her first name, Shushat. Lisa, you're an inspiration to all of us, a gift to all Montrealers and our Jewish community. So I think that's how many of us feel.
That's so nice. Thank you. I really feel like I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky to do what I do. I can't even believe it sometimes.
Lisa?
Yeah.
This will be my last comment before I wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last couple of years, I've been reading, we've all been reading about the terrible tragedy of residential schools. And there are works of fiction that focus on that. I recently read something by Michelle Good. I don't know if you know who she is. She's an amazing author. But several years ago, probably one of the most impactful experiences I've ever had in a live performance, and my wife is sitting here and agreeing, was that we both went to see Children of God.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's something you would consider bringing back.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of feel like a play that has to come back every 5 years, like to remind us, right? The same way we need to talk about anti-Semitism or the Holocaust, and you know, you do that through the arts as well as anything else. I think Children of God is that type of production. And, you know, I can completely picture it doing a Canadian tour again. And, you know, and everybody going, you know, it's time, like maybe, you know, the 10-year anniversary, we got to do it again. We got to talk about it again. But I can't believe how that play impacted so many. And it speaks, you know, if we're going to wrap up here, we talk about, Bonnie, you were asking me, you know, what makes theater different. I can't tell you how many people, including myself, because it wasn't part of my curriculum at the time at Bialik, Ms. Scandell will remember this. We did not learn about residential schools like my children are learning about them, and honoring Orange Shirt Day and everything. And I cannot believe how many people learned about this for the first time in this play, and how this kind of, you know, any kind of thoughts you may have had about Indigenous people or them being different, you know, we're always like, not everyone is comfortable with people who are not like them. If this play did anything, it was, you know, bringing people together and sharing their tragedy, you know, with everybody and saying, no, but we're here to kind of work through it together. I know it was amazing. And I'm so proud that we did it, because after that, so much came up. And again, this is because I had coffee at the airport. This is how it works with artistic directors. We're always traveling. And Jill Kiley, who was the artistic director of the National Arts Center at the time, we were both traveling at the same time. And we said, let's meet at gate, you know, the coffee place between the restaurant, the pickle and the whatever, between gates 1 and 2. And we met, and she sat and she started crying. And she said, you've no idea, you have to know about this play. And I flew to Edmonton to see it. And then I saw it and I'm like, you have to know about this play. And so that's how it works. It's, you know, you one word of mouth is the best form of anything. So when Ellen says, you know, buy your subscription, but also tell your friends, there's, you know, tell your friends. That's the greatest gift of all.
So Lisa, on that note, I want to thank you for a very inspired evening. Really, I really want to thank you. If you have a 6 a.m. flight, I mean, I gather you need to leave the house at around 3:30. So we won't keep you much longer.
I'm only leaving. No, I like living on the edge. I'm gonna leave at like 4:15.
I also just a couple of very quick comments. You mentioned Alvin Segal before.
He might be delayed. What?
Well, we owe him a great debt in the city of Montreal, and we're coming up, I think, on November, the 1st anniversary of his passing. So we should acknowledge what he's done for the community and for the Segal Center, for that matter. So I want to thank you very much again, and I want to say thank you to Bonnie for a wonderful discussion. I just want to let everybody that's on the presentation with us that on October the 29th, which is a Sunday, we'll have a very special event with Aubrey Pomerantz. Aubrey is the director of the Jewish Archives. No, excuse me, the director of the archives at the Jewish Museum of Berlin. Aubrey is originally from Calgary, and he's been in Berlin for many, many years. So we have that to look forward to, and other things this fall and this coming winter. And for those who are celebrating, I want to wish everybody a happy and a healthy new year, and much happiness to your families. And thank you very much for joining us.